This is almost a poem, isn't it? This diplomatic comment in response to Trump's nonsense about the king agreeing with him regarding Iran. A spokesman from Buckingham Palace, or a spokesman for the king, said, "The king is naturally mindful of his government's long-standing and well-known position on the prevention of nuclear proliferation."
What happens when quiet diplomacy collides with loud political spectacle, and the truth gets caught somewhere in between? Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because what we're looking at here isn't just another political disagreement, it's a clash of styles, of messaging, and frankly, of reality itself. On one side, you have King Charles III responding through Buckingham Palace with a statement so carefully worded, it almost feels like poetry. Calm, controlled, and precise. A diplomatic line that quietly corrects the claim made by Donald Trump without ever directly confronting it. But then you look at the other side, and the contrast couldn't be sharper. Trump posts an image of himself, sunglasses on, adopting this "no more Mr. Nice Guy" persona, while criticizing Iran for not signing a nuclear deal. A deal that was already signed under Barack Obama and later dismantled by Trump himself. And suddenly it's not just politics anymore. It's narrative versus memory, image versus fact. And when leadership starts looking more like performance than policy, you have to ask, what exactly are we watching unfold?
This is almost a poem, isn't it? This diplomatic comment in response to Trump's nonsense about the king agreeing with him regarding Iran. A spokesman from Buckingham Palace, or a spokesman for the king, said, "The king is naturally mindful of his government's long-standing and well-known position on the prevention of nuclear proliferation." Donald Trump this morning has already posted a picture of himself in sunglasses under the title "No More Mr. Nice Guy." I'll share the detail of the text with that picture with you shortly, but it is evidence that we weren't exactly dealing with what you might call a sensible or stable individual. Iran can't get their act together, he wrote. They don't know how to sign a non-nuclear deal. Well, Barack Obama would have something to say about that. They better, because of course they signed one when he was president, but Donald Trump elected to tear it up and is now complaining that they won't sign something which will be almost by definition inferior. They better get smart soon! Exclamation mark, President DJT. And there is a photograph of him behind a sort of bombed landscape, wearing sunglasses and touting an AK-47. Well, I don't know if it's an AK-47. You just say AK-47, don't you? Because it probably is an AK-47. I'll get 10 texts now saying, actually, I think you'll find it's a Kalashnikov, an AK-47 assault rifle. There is a problem in the United States of America with guns and the ease with which they're accessed, as was demonstrated on Saturday night in Washington. But of course, when you've got the president glamorizing them, it suggests that they're unlikely to get their act together on that front anytime soon. Glamorizing violence as well, of course, not just the use of guns. So, what was the other one? There's another one as well that was in... the White House posted a picture of Donald Trump with King Charles under the headline, "Two Kings." And yesterday I saw a photograph. Can you guess which one it was? Something posted from the Donald Trump regime, and I looked at it and I thought, oh no, this one is a fake. This one has been doctored. This one is a joke, a hoax, a parody. This one can't possibly be real, but it was real. Somebody called Kid Rock, who was sort of briefly a rock star, a successful rock star, addressing, and you might want to sit down for the next two words that I'm going to say to you. Someone called Kid Rock addressing the Pentagon. The Pentagon. I mean, what was that? That would be the equivalent of what? I don't even know. Justin Hawkins out of the darkness, popping into the Ministry of Defence to run through tactical operations in the Strait of Hormuz. And that's not fair on Justin Hawkins out of the darkness. He's always struck me as a really lovely bloke. But also, he'd have the wit and the modesty, I presume, to say, I think you might have phoned the wrong guy. I don't know that I am qualified to turn up at the actual Pentagon and start lecturing military leaders on anything, really, unless some of them are seeking to become second-rate rock stars, in which case I could probably give them a few pointers, but they look a little bit old, frankly, to be embarking upon a new career like that. Well, who might accept that invitation in the sort of annals of faded British rock royalty? Who might actually say, yes, I'm just the man you need? I can think of a few former footballers, but former rock stars who might actually say, yes, of course I'll pop by. I'll squeeze you in. Can I squeeze you in at 4 o'clock on Tuesday? I'm in town anyway. I'll pop into the Ministry of Defence to give some tactical lectures to your top brass. So that comes third. In the space of 24 hours, the idea of a ridiculous former rock star addressing the actual Pentagon is the third daftest image to emerge from that regime. You can choose between the daft. Well, daft isn't even strong enough. Well, the most ridiculous, the most troubling. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Donald Trump touting a machine gun, complaining that Iran won't sign a nuclear deal when everybody knows that they did. And then you've got the two kings. I'm not American. Spoiler alert. If anyone is labouring under the illusion that I am, then you now know that I'm not Chico. You're just sending me faded rock stars now and asking me to imagine them turning up at the Ministry of Defence to deliver a speech on tactics. I don't think Morrissey would expect... Oh, well played. James Blunt. James Blunt could. James Blunt literally could provide a few pointers on matters military to some people actually involved in such matters. But, yeah, given the state of this country, it'll probably be right said Fred soon. But anyway, you look at these three little events and you are reminded of the... what is the word for something that is simultaneously ridiculous and disgusting? Because sometimes the ridiculousness dilutes the disgustingness, doesn't it? I don't know what the word would be. I don't know how you would describe that, or indeed how I would describe it. The idea that you find something... I mean, it's laughable until you remember how serious it is. You know, this is a man who boasts about how delighted he is that people have died and who insults the dead or who wishes death upon his political enemies and then pretends that other people have done the same to him and insists that they get sacked by their television station or get indicted. We'll get on to James. Hey, what is the relationship between Mystery Hour and the indictment of the former... Was he the former FBI chief or of James Comey, anyway? One of the sort of top thorns. Well, he wasn't even a particularly sharp thorn in Donald Trump's side, but one of the people against whom he nurses enormous resentment. What is the relationship between the former head of the FBI, James Comey, and Mystery Hour and the events of the last 24 hours? That's not even a hook and tease. You probably know it already. My Blue Sky account was pinging. Who'd have thought, you said to me, who'd have thought that Mystery Hour would provide me with a helpful insight into the latest madness to emerge from Donald Trump's White House? But there it is. Mystery Hour, truly, and it'll be back tomorrow at 12. Sometimes we pause it for the news. We postpone it or cancel it if the news is really big. But now that Mystery Hour is actually equipping us with the knowledge that we need to understand the latest madness coming out of the White House, maybe we should be doing more Mystery Hours in order to come to a better understanding of the latest madnesses coming out of the White House. So Mystery Hour will be with us at 12. And it involves the meaning of the phrase 86. Which we discovered last Thursday, but which apparently the White House is determined to pretend they don't actually understand the meaning of. I said rock stars, not the wife of dead rock stars, recently dead rock stars. So unfortunately, she doesn't get onto the team sheet for this question, although she would otherwise be a plausible suggestion. 10 minutes after 10 is the time. So these madnesses remind us that the king was making his way into, and this is where I was struggling to find the right word, because you want to say a viper's nest or a rat's nest, but that doesn't accommodate the ridiculousness. That only accommodates the depravity, the moral bankruptcy. It doesn't accommodate the absurdity of it. The best thing you can do with these people is laugh at them, but then they arrest you. That is reminiscent of an ideology that begins with F. It's actually quite a good phrase, that, isn't it? The best thing you can do is laugh at these people, and that is why they arrest you. Or they seek to get you cancelled. Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night talk show host, for a perfectly innocuous and not brilliant joke, now facing all sorts of calls from the most powerful man in the planet for silencing and cancelling. and James Comey, the former head of the FBI, being indicted for the most ridiculous of reasons. If you laugh at them, they hate you even more than they do if you criticise them. Isn't that funny? It's one of those old adages, isn't it, that the best thing you can do with these people is laugh. But it's very hard to laugh when they arrest you or threaten you with professional oblivion if you lead the laughter. So that's the reminder, and you can help me out with those words, that idea of something that is hideous but also hilarious. I've never stumbled into that before. Something that's hilarious and hideous at the same time. Is that what tragicomic means? I don't think it is it? It's not really what tragicomic means. You know what I'm talking about. You look at this picture of him in his, nearly swore then, in his shades with a machine gun, and you just think that is so pathetic. That is the most beta male, to coin a phrase that's popular on the internet. And look at me, I'm so tough. You know that he couldn't punch his way out of a wet paper bag. He couldn't knock the skin off the rice pudding. But he poses, or he loves these images of him that sort of cast him as Rambo or as some sort of tough guy. He dodged the draft of Vietnam 5 times. He's got the courage of a bowl of cornflakes. But somehow, as with all deeply narcissistic weird men, he's desperate to believe that he's tough, and people surrounding him are desperate to pretend that he is too. So it is hilarious, right? It is objectively hilarious. But it's also hideous because Iran signed a non-nuclear deal with Barack Obama's administration and Donald Trump ripped it up. So the assault upon truth is absolutely clear. 10:13 is the time. So what do we think of the king? I had a caller yesterday. I don't know if you were listening. If you weren't, I want a letter from your mum by the end of break today explaining why. I had a call yesterday and I said to him, you know, because the first thing he said when he came on was, I feel. And I thought, I've called it wrong. Because I very nearly came on air yesterday and said, how do you feel about all this? How do you actually feel about all this? This visit from Prince Charles, King Charles even. I just demoted him then. My apologies, Your Highness. And the reason why I didn't do it yesterday was because it hadn't happened yet. Do you see what I mean? It hadn't actually happened and settled. We hadn't had the images, the footage. We'd had the handshake. We'd had this bizarre moment when he appeared to try to impose himself on the king by doing a handshake. But you know what his handshake will be like. And that's why I didn't ask you yesterday how you feel about it all. You can guess what's coming next. So I think I'll ask you today. Because I really want to feel upbeat about this. As someone who wants the best for his country, I really want to feel upbeat about this. I kind of have this weird little inner voice almost that still thinks it's worth trying to appease this toddler. It's worth trying to keep him sweet. It's worth trying to keep him on side. And yet, this is the same person, me, who has spent the best part of a year explaining to you why it's a complete waste of time. Oh, we're building a new dictionary today. What's the word for that? Is that cognitive dissonance? Is that when you hold two thoughts in your head at the same time? There is absolutely no point in trying to appease this prune. But it's very important that we try to appease this prune. There we go. We got there in the end. That is kind of where I am. I don't know why. I don't know how you detach yourself from that. When we described him accurately some time ago now as a deranged liar, everything slotted into place. It makes life much easier. But then when these moments come around, you kind of feel yourself slipping back from that confidence and that certainty and falling once again into the sort of naive, rose-tinted hope that the king has done some excellent work. He's poured oil on very choppy waters. Why is this? Is this some sort of psychological conditioning? That we can never fully accept the bleakness of a situation. We have to cling on to hope. Like that brilliant line in Clockwise, the John Cleese film. It's not the despair that gets you. I can deal with the despair. It's the hope. You can never completely give up hope. It's worth trying to keep this character sweet. Normality can be restored. Decency can be brought back. And yet you know it can't. Within minutes before I'd even sort of decided what we were going to talk about on air, that picture is posted of him with a machine gun. It's pathetic, right? but it's also significant. And the two kings thing, I'm not American. Sorry, I got distracted by my own monologue. I'm not American, so I don't know how offensive that is. They're celebrating the 250th anniversary of the successful defenestration of the king. They got rid of him. That's what they're celebrating. American independence, no more kings, is a phrase that runs through some forms of American political consciousness, like the word Blackpool runs through a stick of rock. No more kings. And yet they post a picture from the White House of Donald Trump with an actual king under the phrase two kings. And I don't know what that does, what that means. I don't know how significant it is. I don't know what it upsets, which apple cart it upends. But it is just yet more evidence of that word that I don't think exists. The word that describes something that is simultaneously hilarious and hideous. Hidarius? Hilius? Hildarius? Ah, dear. So that's what I'm going to ask you. I think the King's done well. I'll play you some little clips after this, and then you can tell me what you think. And what are we going to do together today, do you think? Are we going to kind of collude in a mass delusion? Are we going to collude in an exercise in pointless optimism? We're going to sit here telling each other that it's all gone very well and I'm very proud and good for the King. And we're just going to ignore the fact that within 24 hours, Donald Trump would have defecated all over any goodwill or any decency that has been established as a consequence of this visit. Or are we actually going to find some scintillae of hope and optimism to cling to? Three thoughts, right? The King and his people, especially the person who wrote that statement, his diplomatic masterclass in amelioration. The King is naturally, because Trump is lying. There's no earthly way that King Charles has said, yes, I completely agree with you, Donald Trump. You know that, I know that, he knows that, everyone knows that. They can't say that because it would involve calling the US president a liar. So instead they release this. This makes me proud to be British. The King is naturally mindful of his government's long-standing and well-known position on the prevention of nuclear proliferation. It's a chuffing masterclass, that, isn't it? It's basically saying the president his pants are aflame. He is a big fat liar, but we can't possibly say that, so we will instead say the King is naturally mindful of his government's long-standing and well-known position on the prevention of nuclear proliferation. So the King and his people have played an absolute blinder. Keir Starmer got it completely right. It was worth sending him, he says, clinging desperately to the fraying scintilla of hope. Is it scintilla or scintillae, Keith? What would be the plural of scintilla? Scintillas? Thank you. Keith says yes. Clinging to the fraying scintillae of hope that we can return to some sort of semblance of sanity or stability or decency, never mind any sort of special relationship, and knowing, even as I say the words and ask you the question, that I'm indulging in a collective delusion that Donald Trump will now behave differently from how he has behaved for his entire life, even before the suspected dementia kicked in. He will now behave with decorum and modesty and treat the United Kingdom with the respect that it so obviously deserves. But I can't shake the good feelings. I'm glad he went. He's done a cracking job, and it might have achieved something. All of which, as questions, I invite you now to answer, but under, I guess, the general heading. For once, we don't do this very often, but when we're looking like squarely at something very specific and current, we can simply say, how does this make you feel? I watched the King, don't laugh at me. I watched the King, I listened to the speech. I felt proud. Did you?
James O'Brien on LBC.
It is 22 minutes after 10, and I mean, listen, within the parameters of diplomacy, so beautifully demonstrated by that quote I shared with you a moment ago from the palace, within the parameters of diplomacy, I think King Charles gave Donald Trump a bit of a kicking during his speech to Congress. You know that they have to sometimes speak in code. Sometimes they have to dress in code, as his late mother did after the ludicrous Brexit referendum, when she wore a hat that was designed to demonstrate solidarity with the European Union. That is all they can do sometimes. But again, King Charles and his speechwriters, they knocked it out of the park. In fact, do you know what I'm going to do before I play you a clip? I'm going to read you a little message from a A friend of mine who I used to work with in Norwich, of all places, but who is now based in the United States. And obviously he won't hear me reading this out live because he'll be fast asleep. Here we go. I don't know what your topics will be today, but I was with you that maybe the king should not go to America. But to coin an American phrase, I think the old boy knocked it out of the park. It's playing very well here, and in my humble opinion, Starmer made the right call. It won't last, as we know, and he posits the notion that Trump has dementia, but the UK comes out of this news cycle on top, and that's all we can hope for with this administration. And then he suggests we meet for a pint when the cost of jet fuel has come down and he's able to fly back for the United Kingdom. And it tallies with me. I feel a little bit proud. And then I sort of hate myself for feeling proud. And I'm not quite sure why. Is it because I know, as my friend attests there, that it'll all disappear in the wash? It'll all, like so much sand in a hand, it'll all run through our fingers and there'll be nothing left, possibly by the end of the week. Anyway, you know that the Trump regime has attempted to demonize and denigrate diversity because they are white supremacists. It runs through their ideology like DNA. And here is King Charles obliquely, that's one of my favourite words, you know. Here is King Charles obliquely addressing the attempted denigration of diversity and the coded white supremacism that popped up actually in one of Donald Trump's speeches yesterday. Here it is.
Distinguished members of the 119th Congress, it is here in these very halls that this spirit of liberty and the promise of America's founders is present in every session and every vote cast, not by the will of one, but by the deliberation of many, representing the living mosaic of the United States. In both of our countries, it is the very fact of our vibrant, diverse, and free societies that gives us our collective strength, including to support victims of some of the ills that so tragically exist in both our societies today.
And just when you think it couldn't get more surreal, it does. Because within the same 24-hour window, you're not just seeing bold claims and dramatic imagery, you're seeing moments that feel almost unreal. A post showing two kings, Donald Trump alongside King Charles III, in a country built on the idea of having no kings at all. Then, somehow, you have Kid Rock appearing in serious defense spaces like the Pentagon. And you pause for a second because it genuinely feels like something that should be satire, but isn't. And that's the strange tension running through all of this. It's almost funny, until you remember the stakes. Because behind the imagery, behind the headlines, there are real policies, real consequences, and real global implications. A nuclear agreement once existed, it was removed, and now its absence is being criticized as if history can simply be rewritten. So you're left with this uncomfortable mix, something that feels ridiculous on the surface, but deeply serious underneath. And maybe that's the hardest part, trying to figure out whether to laugh or to be concerned. Because right now it feels like both at the same time. If you found this breakdown helpful, drop your thoughts at the comment section. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.